going on, everyone? My name is Corsair and welcome to another video on the channel. So back in January of 2020, I built the PC that you see behind me, and I got it for two different purposes. One is gaming and two is editing videos like this one. At the time, I just started posting coding to my Instagram page, and I knew that at some point I would want to get into YouTube, and so having a computer that was just powerful enough to edit videos was an absolute necessity. But even besides video editing, having, like I said, a machine that's just capable of playing games like Rainbow Six Siege, Grand Theft Auto, etc, etc. But I'll admit that I really haven't been getting a bunch of use of it for gaming recently because I've just been so caught up in making content like this video. As far as upgrades, the build is nearly untouched, meaning it is getting a little outdated. But the one addition I did make was a Samsung 1TB 970 EVO SSD. At the moment, this PC really works for everything I needed to do. So with all that said, let's dive into the parts I'm rocking. Alright, starting off with the case, we have the NZXT H510i. The build quality is great, and it has a super clean and minimal design. The case has two pre-installed fans and RGB LED light strip at the top. It was a really simple case to build in as a beginner and has really good cable management. On the top of the case, you have a power button, both a USB 3.0 and USB Type-C ports, and a headphone jack. But it does have its drawbacks. The airflow inside is pretty bad. It restricts you to only having two exhaust fans in the back, so dust does build up rather quickly. This is probably going to be one of my next major upgrades. I'm thinking of buying something like the Vienly O11 Dynamic, or just something that can give me some better airflow while still having a clean design. Next up is the CPU. I'm using an Intel i7-9700K, which is really awesome when it comes to gaming because of its single core performance. However, when it comes to editing 4K footage, it's not as good as its AMD counterpart. When I bought the processor, I wasn't really focused as much on the multitasking capabilities, but more on the extra FPS I would get in games. Now, it still does the job fine, I can't really complain that much, but for my next processor upgrade, I'm definitely gonna have to go with an AMD one. For cooling, I'm using the NZXT Kraken X62 280mm all-in-one liquid cooler. It looks fantastic and it's pretty much dead silent. It's super simple to configure the light settings in the cam application, however the rest of the software is just really buggy. Besides that, it's done what it's supposed to do and I've really had no issues. For the motherboard, we are using the MSI, what is this called? MPG Z390 Gaming Edge AC. Man, they make these names so damn long for no reason. What's awesome about the board is it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in, so it's super simple to get connected to the internet or any wireless devices you're using. There's some software you can download to configure the lights on it, however, it's really not that noticeable. Thus far, it's worked perfectly. For memory, I'm using a 16GB kit of Corsair LPX Vengeance RAM, clocked at 3200 MHz. It's pretty cheap and works well, but I think that for an editing rig like I have, 32GB is probably a better option just to take some extra stress off of the computer when multitasking. As far as storage, like I mentioned earlier, I just installed a Samsung 1TB SSD, and alongside that, I'm using an Intel 1TB SSD. Both drives are really fast and make booting up to Windows or just opening an app or game really fast. But the difference in speed between the two have been pretty negligible this far, so I think that if you're looking for an SSD, really either is a great option. For the GPU, I have the GeForce RTX 2070 Super. I know, oh, why don't we have the 3000 series? Yeah, I'm working on it, alright? But anyways, this is the Founders Edition of the card, and so it has a really clean and modern design. My biggest complaint about it though is the green LED that you can't change nor disable, so it kind of ruins the aesthetic I'm going for, but it's besides the point. This has been an awesome card though, and it's been able to really run any game in ultra settings that I throw at it, while still maintaining pretty good frames. And lastly, for the power supply, this is the Corsair RM750X. It's 80+ gold rated, so it's extremely reliable, and it's fully modular, which means that you only have to plug in the cables that you actually need for your build. I'm able to power my entire build while also having room to make some upgrades in the future, and on top of that, it's an extremely quiet fan. I think this is a great power supply and I can definitely recommend it. So add it all together, the parts come out to around 1700 USD, and it's definitely a large investment, but I'm very fortunate to be able to afford such a nice build. Now that I covered the computer itself, I want to get into just some of the peripherals that I use. For my monitor, I'm using the LG 34WK95C-W. I'm absolutely in love with this thing. It's 34 inches, has a 3440 by 1440p resolution. The bezels are extremely thin, which makes it look really good. It has a 75Hz refresh rate with the AMD FreeSync technology, so it's definitely not extremely optimal for gaming, but when you do play on a monitor of this aspect ratio, you don't generally get much more than like 70 frames per second, at least on my build, so it's definitely not that big of a deal. And I do think that sacrificing some of the frames for the level of immersion that this thing offers is 100% worth it. But putting gaming aside, this monitor really shines when it comes to productivity tasks and video editing. Whether I'm doing web design or just scrolling through a timeline in Premiere Pro, I have a ton of screen real estate to see what I'm doing. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, why don't I just get a gaming variant with a high refresh rate since I'm using it on PC? And it comes down to two things. One, color accuracy, and two, the most important, is the USB-C Type-C port. Now, I'm a huge Mac user, so being able to connect my MacBook to the monitor with only one cable is extremely convenient. My only complaint about this monitor is I actually had to go through 2 return processes because of faulty panels. It comes in at $9.99 USD, so it's definitely a very big investment, very pricey, but I think for my workflow, what I do on it, I do not regret it at all. I use 2 different keyboards, one for coding and editing, and another for gaming. My first one is a Keychron K2, which is a wireless Bluetooth mechanical keyboard. While it is designed for Mac, I like to use it on my Windows computer because it's super simple to switch the Bluetooth profile from my MacBook, and it's also very satisfying to type on. If you're interested in learning more about the keyboard, I have a full review up on the channel, so I'll leave a link to that down in the description. For gaming, I have the Corsair K70. It has Cherry MX speed switches, which are really awesome for gaming because of how fast they are. But I'm not a big fan of the full-size keyboard with the numpad, and so I don't find myself using it that much. I also have 2 mice, one the Logitech MX Master 2S and the Corsair M65 RGB Elite. The Logitech is an awesome mouse for productivity. The ergonomic design is extremely comfortable and the horizontal scroll wheel makes it really awesome to pan through timelines in Premiere Pro. The M65 also has a pretty similar design that I'm actually a really big fan of. It uses the iQ software along with the K70 or other Corsair products that you own, which allows you to change the lighting effects, the DPI settings, and so much more. For audio, I have the Logitech G Pro X headset, which I love so much. It has a really awesome and just minimal design with probably one of the best microphones in a gaming headset. On the desk, I have the Audio Engine A2 Plus speakers, which have an awesome design and really good sound quality. And so guys, that just about wraps up today's video. This is the computer that I use to game and edit videos like this one. For the most part, this computer has fulfilled my needs and it's made an awesome addition to my setup. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to all the parts from the build as well as the peripherals down in the description below. For those of you who made it this far in the video, I want to say thank you, I really appreciate it. If you want to see more content from me in the future, be sure to drop a like and subscribe with bell notifications so you're notified next time I upload. Thank you and take care guys.